guys, how's it going? Today I'm planting some flower seeds in our new cut flower garden, and we are nearing the middle of July here. So I wanted to show you 10 different varieties of seed that, depending on your area, you can still start from seed this time of year and expect to see flowers by the end of the season. So real quick, I want to show you the 10 varieties I'm starting. I'll get into more detail about each of these particular varieties in a minute, but real quick, we've got zinnias, cosmos, calendula, morning glory, amaranth, tithonia or Mexican sunflower, some sunflowers, marigolds, nasturtiums, and bachelor's buttons. Before we get into the details, there are two very vital pieces of information you need to know before you start a project like this. First of all, you need to know your first average frost date in the fall. If you don't know that date, you can Google first average frost date and then your zip code, and you should be able to get a pretty close estimate as to what that day is. You could ask somebody at your local garden center or at your extension office, even a really experienced gardener in your area, which I feel like oftentimes is a better resource than Google because there are a lot of different nuances to every single area. And the reason why you need to know this is because some of these flowers are frost sensitive. So you really need to be able to calculate how many days on average you have from the day you're starting the project to the day you're going to get your first frost, because if you're planting something that takes longer than that amount of time, then it's not worth planting. The second piece of information you need to know is the maturity date of the flower variety you're planting. For example, you can see here on the calendula seed packet, maturity days 50 to 55. That's the information you want to see, and you can typically find it on all seed packets somewhere. So once you know those two pieces of information, you can say, well, like, I know that if I plant today, I have about 90 to 95 days before our first average frost in my area. So a calendula that has a maturity day of 50 to 55 days is perfect, because I know that I have plenty of time to get that plant up, to get it blooming, and even like maybe half a month or more to harvest blooms off of these plants. And every variety is different. So like the sunflowers I have here today, I have Sungold and Sunspot, which are more dwarf varieties of sunflowers, and they don't take as long to come into flower. So you want to really make sure, because some sunflowers will take 100 days to bloom and some will take 50 or 65 days or something like that. So it can vary so much even within the same category of flower. There's also some additional information. I mean, always, you know, do a little bit of research. Like the amaranth I'm planting, if I wanted that amaranth to grow to grain stage, it would take a lot longer than the time I have left, but all I want it to do is to flower. So I've got enough time to let it flower, I just won't have enough time to let it grow all the way to grain stage. And those pieces of information, a lot of the time I just learn those by doing it. And I know a lot of us gardeners, like, we'll try to push the envelope and try to, you know, make things happen. Like, all of this is a little bit of a risk because we never know what our weather's gonna do. Like last year we had a weird cold snap in October. We got down to 9 degrees and that was our coldest day all winter long. It ruined our fall. Like, it took all of our fall leaves. We didn't have any fall color last year, and it killed the tops of my boxwoods and all of that. So that can still happen. So be aware that there's always a risk because we can't control Mother Nature. But we always hope for the best. I mean, that's what gardening is, right? One more thing that I almost forgot to mention is that as we near that first average frost date, typically the days are getting shorter, the nights are cooler, which can prolong the amount of time that it takes your flower to come to full bloom. So if you really want to be safe, you can add an extra 2 or 3 weeks of time onto the maturity date, and that way you have, I don't know, I guess less risk that you're not going to have flowers by the end. But I think that we're going to do pretty good with what I've got here. All right, so now I want to go through each one of these seed varieties. We'll throw a picture up on the screen if it's not on the seed packet, just so you can kind of see what I'm hoping to get by the end of this season. And then we'll go out to where I'm planting them. I'm in the high tunnel right now because it's actually pretty breezy today, and it kept blowing my seed packets all over the place. Plus it's a little shaded, so it's very nice in here. So the first and most reliable of all of these seeds in my experience are zinnias. Typically I plant crops of zinnias after I harvest my garlic after the 4th of July, and I always get blooms really fast because the soil temperature is so warm. I've had them in as fast as 30 days from seed to flower. They are just so amazing. So I am planting Polar Bear and Purple Prince today. And next we have Cosmos. I have 5 different varieties to plant today, 4 of which came from Floret. First one's Daydream, Apricot Lemonade, Xanthos, and Rubenza. And then we've got Tango right here. Typically these have a maturity date of anywhere from 75 to 90 days, so I'm really hoping that they mature quickly. on the quicker side of things since it's so warm out. And if you plant these early, these are one of the most prolific bloomers. They're kind of cut and come again type flowers. So anyway, really great flowers to plant. They can also tolerate some amount of cold. So this is a really good one to plant for late harvest, as well as the next one, which is the calendula flashback mix. These are really, really easy to grow, super fast to mature, and then they can go through some pretty light frosts. Next we have morning glories. Clark's Heavenly Blue, aren't those pretty? Super fast growing vine, especially since it's so warm out. I did pre-soak the seeds to help soften up the seed coat. You can also file these down to open up a point of germination on the seed coat. I didn't do that because I didn't have time, but I soaked them for like 24 hours, so we should be okay. Now this is different. This type of morning glory is not the same as like the morning glory with the little white blooms that takes over our garden spaces here in our area. They're actually different plants. This is an Ipomea. The field bindweed type morning glory is a convolvulus, something like that. Anyway, so these are not like the invasive type that are gonna take over your life. Then we've got our amaranth. I'm excited about these. I've got red spike, emerald tassels, and coral fountain. So maturity days, it says 65 to 75. So I'm really hoping that these form some really good flowers because these are awesome for fall decorating. Again, I may not have enough time to see them produce grain, and that's okay. These are just for flowers. And then we have 4 different varieties of bachelor's buttons here, which typically take about 65 days to mature. 3 of these came from florets. We've got Classic Magic, which is a mix of black, deep plum, purple, and white. Classic Romantic, which is a mix of blush, pink, white, and then bicolors. Classic Fantastic is sapphire, pale blue, and cool hued bicolor mix. And then we've got Black Magic. These are very cold tolerant as well, so they can take some frost. Next are peach nasturtiums. All of the ones that come in white envelopes I get down at the garden center, and you can actually get these online. I'll link all of these down below. So peach nasturtiums, I do have some plant starts that I started from seed in the greenhouse earlier on that I haven't even planted out in the cut flower garden yet. But I had some leftover seeds, and these typically take 60 days to mature. So I have pre-soaked these seeds. Their seed shells all softened up and they're ready to roll. Next up are petite marigolds, and these grow about 12 inches tall. They have a maturity date 45 to 50 days. They're always a nice bright spot in the garden. I love that old-fashioned kind of look. Next, we've got sunflowers. So the Sungold Dwarf are also called teddy bears. They have a maturity date 50 to 65 days. This one has a maturity date of 65 days. This one comes up on really short stems, but they have huge 8 to 12 inch diameter flowers. And then this one, the teddy bear, have the really full double, like fully double, can't even see the center of the flower sort of flowers. And then the last one is Tithonia, which I'm not even sure I'm saying that right. I've never grown this one before, so I'm really excited about it. It's a type of Mexican sunflower called Sundance and has a maturity date of 80 days. I just love that there's some flowers like this that are so versatile, because sometimes you run into, well, just life happens and the spring gets busy, or, you know, maybe you weren't able to get your garden in and you're just kind of lamenting the fact that you don't have anything growing and blooming, but you still have time to do that. So just figure out all that information, the maturity days of the varieties and your first average frost date, and you may be able to squeeze some more production into your garden space. So the last thing I need to do, really the only thing I need to do, is get these seeds in the ground. So let me show you the area where they're going, and then I'm going to probably speed up this process, but I'll stop before each variety and just tell you how I'm gonna plant the seed and kind of show you a close-up. So as we exit the high tunnel, real quick, you can see how our tomatoes and pumpkins are doing. Everything's looking so good. I really have been falling down on my tomato pruning job though. I really need to get after these tomatoes, but they have been producing and we've been eating them. And the containers look really good. Look at those, all full. Still haven't taken the stickers off, but the pumpkins and squash really look good. I had 8 mounds out of the 60 not come up, so I came in with some shorter maturity day pumpkins, the sugar pie, and then Jack B. Littles, and I seeded those a little bit later so they're smaller. And then I had one squash plant over here snap right off at the base. Look at this, in a windstorm the other night. So I'm gonna leave it. This is a sweetmeat squash. Maybe it will grow. I don't know, I was very sad. But overall, looking absolutely amazing. I mean, if we look in here, I can even see where they're starting to bud up to start to flower. But this is actually where we're gonna be planting today. So we planted our dahlias here, which they are starting to come up. And I've got several different supports you'll see in this area. I've got the Titan Squash Tunnel. These are all from Gardener Supply. Cedar Last Obelisk, the A-frame, Titan A-frame, and then the Titan P Tunnel. I'm really excited to finally start utilizing these. This one I'm actually going to plant cucumbers on later this week, but I'm going to plant the Morning Glories on this one today, and it's perfect because it's the perfect width for my drip tape. I love that. And I love the fact, like, one, they're lightweight, it's like they're easy for me to move around, but they're really sturdy, and then they come with a net that you can pinch on with these little clips. And I didn't do a very professional job of it, but that's okay. The Morning Glories will cover it very quickly. And we'll link those down below too if you want to check them out. But let me show you the last two things that I'm using today. First, starter fertilizer. I'll be working that into every row. And then I've got a tool here so I can make little furrows or little trenches. And then I have tags, which I've already written out. So these are the tags I used mostly. I ran out, so I had 9 tags, and I'm planting 10 things today. Amaranth I'm actually going to be planting on the fence in the back because it needs support. But yeah, you can see all these right here. All right, so now I'm just going to go gather up my seeds, kind of lay them out how I think I want to plant them, and then we'll start in. All right, nasturtium seeds first. That's what they look like giant grape nuts. And we're going to bury these about a 1/2 inch deep, and I'm going to space them out about every 6 inches or so. Next, Morning Glories on the Titan P trellis. And these seeds, which almost resemble sunflower seeds, are kind of long and bigger on one side. We're going to plant them a 1/4 inch deep and space them out about 12 inches. I should also mention I'm planting 2 seeds per little area I plant, just to make sure I have good germination. And I've got a few leftover Morning Glory seeds, so I'm going to plant them around the base of the obelisk. Now I'm going to do bachelor buttons. I only made 1 tag because I didn't have enough tags. So I'm just going to plant them in alphabetical order. So Black Magic, Fantastic, Magic, and Romantic. Look at those. Those look like little birdies, like for badminton. They have a little hairy end on them. So we're going to go 1/4 inch deep every 6 to 12 inches or so. I think I'm going to space them 6 inches, and then I can thin them out later. Now the Mexican sunflowers, which it says on the packet to bury them 1 inch down. That seems really deep. And then to cover them with fine soil. I don't know if I would consider this fine soil, but we're gonna go with it. Here we go. First row is done. Now we're gonna start in with marigolds. I think these are the coolest looking seeds. 1/4 inch deep, 6 inch spacing, and I'm seeding pretty heavy today just because it's a lot faster to do that, and I'll just thin them out later. Now we'll do zinnias, which we will plant a 1/4 inch deep and thin eventually to 12 inches. I'm going to start with polar bear, and then we'll do purple prince, so they're in alphabetical as well. These are really flat seeds. Look at those. Very papery. Next are my sunflowers. We're going to plant these 1/2 inch deep and space them out about 6 inches. And I think we're all pretty familiar with what sunflower seeds look like. These are a little bit on the small side. Second row is done. So now we're going to start this row with the Flashback Mix Calendula. Don't those seeds look like little curled up worms? So they recommend that you plant 2 seeds every 6 to 12 inches, a 1/4 inch deep. So with the Cosmos, I'm going to plant these in alphabetical as well. So apricot lemonade first, then daydream, rubenza, tango, and xanthos. And with this type of seed, you want to just barely cover them with soil, which means I'm going to have to be really diligent about making sure they stay moist. See that right there? They're really little. And we're going to space them out about 12 inches. So I had a deeper trench right here, and since we barely need to cover the seeds, I kind of filled it back in a little bit. And last up is the amaranth, which I'm planting right at the base of the fence. These varieties grow up to 60 inches and they do need support, so I thought, oh, this is perfect. I can just lash them to the fence. So we ran a one piece of drip tape that has emitter holes every 12 inches, which is about perfect for spacing. And it says to just barely cover these seeds with soil. And these seeds are so tiny, they are in an envelope inside the envelope. Look at those. Those are like a quarter the size of a sesame seed. That's great, since I am so dexterous with my very delicate fingers. So I've got 5 fence sections right here, and I'm going to plant 2 full fence sections with coral spike, coral fountain rather, 2 with red spike, and 1 with emerald tassels. I kind of want more of the colorful ones because I think I'll use them more for fall stuff. And what I'm going to do, instead of doing a trench, I did put biotone in the soil right here. Whoops. I'm just going to go ahead and just plant seeds right at the base of each one of these emitter holes. All right, this is going to take me a little bit. So now, even though I do have drip tape run to this area, and that's how we will be irrigating it, I am gonna drag the hose out just to water all the seeds in, so I make sure they're all thoroughly watered and settled into place. So that's pretty much it for today's project. Super happy to have these seeds in the ground, and I think I will be so happy about it about the end of August, beginning of September, when I see some of these starting to bloom, we hope, if everything goes right. At this point, the most important thing is to make sure they stay wet, and when it's hotter outside, it's a little harder to do that. So even though I have drip, like I said, I'm going to be eyeballing these things. If one of the drip areas doesn't look like it's covering good enough, I'll drag the hose out. But I got them all watered in today, and I am running the drips right now just to make sure that all of them work properly. And then I hope to come out later this week and plant up my fall crops. So veggies that I can harvest later on this season. So I hope this video was helpful and maybe encouraging to you guys to get out there and plant some more stuff. It's not too late. And thank you so much for watching this video, and we will see you in the next one. Bye.